It's 6:03, November 20th. We're having our bi-monthly select board meeting. Roll call. Select persons present: Jeff Peters, Josh Tracy, Mike Gould. Employees present: Brian Mullis, town manager, Michelle Nichols, town clerk, Kelsey Shannon, deputy clerk, Matt Blockler, fire chief, and Lance Johnson, code enforcement. Public present. For public, let's everybody introduce themselves. Start with you, Eric. We'll go right around the room.
Eric Curtis.
Rick.
Rick Dobson.
Okay. Dennis.
Dennis Campbell.
Priscilla Johnson.
Chris Rowell.
Jamie Dorr.
Jamie Dole. Okay, let's open the meeting with a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first thing we have up is open session. Open session is limited to 2 minutes a chair as a rule, and is designed to just bring ideas, complaints, compliments, to bring them forward. Anybody got any open session items? Rick?
Yeah, last meeting I spoke about the Dexter dump and the
Yes.
dump.
Yep.
Have we got anything on the agenda to talk about that today?
No, we do not, that I know of, that I haven't heard anything on it.
So, is that something that you guys can handle without a petition or without, can you just put it up for bids again and put it in front of the people to vote? Or is there a different process that you have to go through to discuss that? My issue is, I understand the reason why it changed over because Dover went up. Well, there's well over 1,000 people in the town that pay taxes. If they went up $1,000 a year, each one of us taxpayers had to pay $1 a year to stay with Dover. Well, I ended up paying, I got to pay trash pickup, which is $35, $45 a month. I brought a load of trash last month. Roof shingles, they charged us for it. It was $130 for one load and $70 for the next load. So we're paying taxes to use dumpster. Still have to pay anywhere from $100 to $150 a load for stuff like shingles. But I think financially, it's really to my best interest to go back to Noble. And I'm sure it's the same way with a lot of people in this area. So I think it's worth discussing, worth looking at, and then checking out. I just need to know the process. If you guys can handle it yourself.
I know as much about the process as you do, so that makes two of us.
Excuse me?
That makes two of us that knows this much about the process.
Right.
It's something I would have to research, which is what's neat about this open session. It gives you a chance to bring it forward, and it
Right.
gives us a chance to research it as well.
Yeah.
So I think.
Rick, I apologize, I was here when you brought that up last time. I didn't get it on my list, but it is now on my list of things to research and provide information to this group of gentlemen as soon as I can.
Okay, thanks for bringing it forward. Anybody else have anything in open session? Or are you, yes, anybody else have anything for open session you want to discuss? Okay, seeing none.
So that's all I needed. I'm
Yep.
gonna go home and have something to eat and go to bed.
All right. Thanks for your input.
Enjoy.
Okay, moving on, item 3, signing of the minutes.
We do not have those complete.
Okay. hence halfway through the recorder.
There you go.
Gotcha. Okay, we tabled the minutes. And move on to item 4, review of the treasurer's warrants. Payroll 80 and 82. And accounts payable 83. This one's 83.
This style's harder to follow along.
It is a little harder to follow. Michelle, how often does Joe, is he paid?
I know where you're going with that, and that was that Mill Street situation, drove that cost of that way up, and all the trips he made to Lincoln with the cats from Mill Street.
Gotcha, okay.
And that doesn't exceed the line item for that account, and I'm not sure where we go with that next. But
What situation that had to be addressed?
we didn't have a choice.
We did not have a choice.
It was an emergency situation. So.
Okay, that was my question. You answered it.
Is that the only place we have to take it, is Lincoln?
That's where our contract is.
That is?
Yeah.
Now, what Joe told me is if because I asked him what happens if the resident, they find the people working with the resident find a new home for her, and something has to be done about the cats. He said that he calls somebody at the state in the animal welfare, and they essentially bring a team up, and the team takes care of it at no cost to
I'm
us.
familiar with that part.
But unfortunately, we're not there yet.
Humane Society.
Yeah, exactly. That was that same, I think that's the same team we had out there on the Gray Hill Road over in that fiasco.
That's a long day.
That was a long month. That was when I cursed Jack Kluge every day for talking me into being a health officer.
I think Joe got bit a few times actually, before that day was out.
Just like bit by Carol.
Okay, moving on to item 5, old business. First item is fire department money. The fire department held a boot drive on Route 23 in July of 2023. This money was put into the town's general fund account, not given to the fire department fundraiser. So we just need to deal with what to do with it and when to do it.
Right, my suggestion is that we write a check, or we authorize Michelle to write a check for the amount, $6,100, is that correct, Pam? To the Friends of Sangerville Fire, which was where that boot drive money was initially supposed to go until they were told that they had to put it in the general fund.
How does that fit into the budget parameters?
I think we're okay. Our LRAP money, if you looked at the bottom of that account, put us in pretty good shape on roads right now, so so we're probably not gonna touch any of that 200,000 out of Article 26. We're gonna probably use a very reduced amount out of the 440,000. So I can't give you a dollar and cents breakdown, but I feel we can afford to pay the $6,100 that we owe these folks and make that right.
We do have another option too, which is to kind of come to the understanding that we'll address it at budget time too, if it needs to stay in there to get us by or anything like that. But
When did you put the money in? When did you give the money to the town office? That was
that,
over a year ago.
like a
right?
week after that boot drive, so it was in probably August of, or no, it was in July.
As I say,
I was gonna say
usually the stuff is in
We did it
July.
Memorial Weekend, so it was in July of 2023 it went in there, so. It's been a year and 4 months, something like that.
Okay.
Knowing that the money is not where it was intended to be is a problem, and then when and how to move it is the solution. We don't feel it's gonna create a budget problem. I felt like what you just said was the firemen are okay, they're not up in arms over it.
So, the way that the members of the Friends of look at it at this point is that you guys have all worked really well with us, and even if we just have, you know, if we're in a good spot to write a check, then great. If we're not, then we can always write it into the budget, figure that back out later. But the whole purpose of that money was that we were going to purchase a gear washer for the year to have in the station, so we didn't have to go elsewhere to wash it. I have written a grant that we're waiting to hear back from, like December, January. So that money probably wouldn't get spent until we get an answer on that grant anyway. But, because if somebody's gonna give us one for free, then so be it. That money can be used for a different piece of equipment, but, so.
So as a group, we all agree that, I mean, it's their money, they earned it and they should have it. And we're all in agreement of that, I think.
We shouldn't use it in our budget just because we have it, it's not
That's right.
right.
The only concern I had is if we end up in a real deficit position, you know, but I don't think we are.
I'm not, I'll be honest, we're gonna be tight on the budget when we hit July 1, when tax dollars start coming in. But I really don't think that 6,000 is gonna be a significant impact on that. I think by tight, meaning we might be down to the last 20 or 30,000 that we have, but that's just taking a quick look at the books. And like I said, with that LRAP money coming in to do our road projects, I think that puts us in pretty good shape, you know, and especially where we're not gonna be writing a lot of checks on the town hall just yet.
Right.
So I think we're but one of the places when it comes to the budget situation, Michelle and Kelsey and I are gonna be looking at the chart of accounts. Right now, our chart of accounts doesn't really fit and reflect the budget well, and our plan is to have that addressed before the end of December. So once we get the chart of accounts, then we start looking at plugging figures in and figuring out where we're gonna be for the first 6 months of 2025. Does that sound reasonable to you?
That's the goal, yep. I've got a call with the auditor, Brenda, who works with Trio, and the budget. We're gonna talk on Friday to see what pieces I need to put in place that I've missed or something like that, so.
But from all of us, and I know Josh has been there with us and taken a pretty hard look at all those figures, and I've looked at them, Michelle's looked at them, you know, we're gonna be tight, we're not gonna have extra money kicking around, but on the other hand, we're not. I don't think we're gonna get in trouble unless something unforeseen happens.
Right. So, we need to make a decision. We'll need a motion what to do. What are you guys thinking?
I'll make a motion, we write the check for what we owe them, whatever that dollar amount.
$6,100.
$6,100.
Did I get a second? Yep. Vote. You have instruction, Michelle.
Do that.
Who's that?
Okay, moving on, item B, parking ordinance, and I'm assuming this is winter time, snow removal
I
parking.
went back and looked, there is, in fact, no ordinance, there's only that draft ordinance. It appears there's never been an ordinance in Sangerville about parking. Now, that draft ordinance is very long, very cumbersome, and entails a lot of material. And I could see very easily if I was sitting in a town meeting and that chunk of paper was thrown in front of me, I would be very hesitant to vote for it, because it's just too much in one ordinance. An ordinance should be a lot briefer than that, in my opinion. So we are in a situation where we have an old policy under Public Works, under winter roads and snow removal, that says we tow people if they're in the right of way obstructing the snowplow and they're asked to move, they don't. Apparently this is what the town has relied on for years. I don't know if there's a problem. This is obviously gonna be my first winter here. But we are at a couple of options. We could either, I don't think we should resurrect that draft and try to run it through a special town meeting. But we could draft a new ordinance and run it through a special town meeting if people feel that we should have a winter parking ordinance. Or we can stick with the policy we have, and through what I've proposed is a ordinance and policy review process, we can kind of determine then what we need to do and put it before the people when the time is appropriate.
So that policy exists right now,
That policy exists, it's not an ordinance, it's a policy.
just a policy.
It's a policy, and it's probably 15 years old.
Chris?
In that policy, it's only if you're obstructing the right of way, correct?
That is correct.
So parking on the side of the street would not be covered under that.
No, as long as, you know, I think the quick, easy way around that is if you have tenants or yourself or whatever, you're parking on the street and it snows, and you kinda are willing to work with the town and try to move your vehicle when you can, so we can get it plowed out or
That
whatever.
was the whole point last year. I called Clint to say, dude, all you had to do was call, you didn't have to plow my vehicle in. I would've moved it.
How many
And that
vehicles,
went into a big fiasco with him.
how many vehicles are we talking about?
I have one vehicle parked on the side of the
No,
road.
I'm talking about now over here. 1, 2,
Maybe three.
3.
And they all park across the street in that public parking lot. So I don't understand how that would be a towable area. You know, I've always tried to be good about moving vehicles.
Can you get them over here?
Clint has my phone number, it's not my fault he's got me blocked.
Yeah.
It's not my fault that he unloaded on me with a slew of choice words that, like I said, all I did is I called to say, all you had to do was call me. That was it, that's all I wasn't calling to cause a commotion, it turned into one.
Yep. So what I'm hearing is we do need to look at this for clarity. Clint's upset, Chris is upset, and there's an unclear line. Unclear lines make upset people.
And I guess my question is, do we wanna look at going the policy route or the ordinance route?
Well, to start with, on a subject like this, if it's a policy, where do we stand from a legal standpoint? Example. We make a phone call and have the vehicle towed. Where do we stand? If it's a policy. And then where do we stand if it's an ordinance that's voted on by the people?
Now, it's an ordinance, it's pretty black and white, it's enforceable.
There you go.
Which Guilford you on?
That I don't know.
They towed him out of there before.
Do you know what Guilford has?
Guilford, you can't park, like, you can't park there, you gotta be down below those roads.
Yeah.
But this is an ordinance.
It's an ordinance, so it is enforceable.
Right.
Right, but somebody parked it,
And the other thing too,
6
if the
PM.
plow hits the car, it's on the car, not the plow truck. Because it's an ordinance.
right, but that's only from midnight to 6 AM. Something like that. This was 4:35 PM down here,
Yeah.
and my car got plowed in.
Yeah.
Did it get towed?
No, it did not get towed.
Oh,
But
So-
I would have preferred it gotten towed over the plow guy had being vindictive and plowing snow in front of me. It was at the end of the storm, I get that, you know. I was trying to plow driveways too, I understand, I wasn't trying to be in the way. I was trying to be out of the way, that's why it was there, and not across the street where it still needed to be cleaned up.
So it sounds to me like this needs to be visited.
And the previous town manager told me they could tow the vehicle from the side of the road anytime they wanted to during a snowstorm.
Well,
By this winter roads policy.
it's pretty hard to run a business and not be able to park there.
It is
Yeah.
extremely hard to run a business and not be able to park there.
I don't know that I totally agree with that.
I mean, I would say if it was longer term parking, it would be nice if they were across the street, but for somebody just stopping in.
So let's start here, Chris, where do you feel we should go with this as a do you think we should make a policy change or an ordinance change? What, as a citizen that's affected by this, tell me what you think.
Well, it's already, previous board and previous town managers have already gone one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But the policy is not enforceable.
Right.
And that came from the sheriff's department. Okay, so if the car blocking the road out here on School Street can't be towed during a snowstorm at 2 o'clock in the morning and the plow guy's out there
Policy's useless.
blaring his horn, that policy is useless.
Right,
Has to be signage or an ordinance.
signage
Signage or an ordinance.
or an ordinance.
We can.
There was signage there. It got removed by the plow guys and never put back. They hid it on the line, I get it, you know, but that sign's up at the town garage. It was never put back over here on School Street.
Is this the only
Says-
complaint we've ever had, or are there other complaints? Is this a problem all over town, or is this just the downtown cluster
Granted,
area?
I've only been in the office 7 or 8 weeks, but
You know
I
Michelle?
have not had people coming in complaining about winter parking.
I think the only time we have an issue is down there, cause it's a little bit tight, and it may become a problem up here this winter, depending on how people are parking on the side of Church Street now, but.
That's all I've heard in 10 years,
Yeah,
is in town.
As the plow guys,
Yes, yeah. Has 10 years of dealing with them, that's all I've heard is in town for the most part. There's a few out of town here and there, and they'll let them know, but, I mean, that's once in a great while.
so,
So my understanding of the law, Mike, is if we did a policy where we put signage up, or that is enforceable,
An ordinance.
it has to be an ordinance.
Seems like if it was a car there, they just plow around it.
Eventually somebody will move it and you come back and clean it
Well,
up.
you don't move the car, you come back and there's a bunch of stones that went out and go.
so it's pointless to talk about the policy, in my opinion. If a policy's not enforceable, and it's pointless to talk about it. We either need to decide if we wanna draft an ordinance, or let the cards fall as they might through the winter.
So I vote for we haven't had an ordinance, why start now?
We don't even plow Main Street, do we?
In
Yeah,
all
we do.
honesty, that was
We go
kind of
from
where I fell in.
Four corners all the way down.
Right at the end.
Right, but that's subcontracted out to somebody else.
Right. But we don't plow
23.
Hudson Ave,
No,
no,
that's
that's
state,
state road.
That's
That's
the,
state.
yeah.
state maintained.
but
But Chris
Chris
plows from the
plows.
four-way all the way to,
up to the stop sign at Route 15.
I just find that funny that the
That's
state.
odd.
the state
That's
travels
'cause-
it multiple times,
that's
but I
'cause,
don't plow that one
that's
side.
The
'cause Route
state
23
reimburses the town.
turns at the bottom of Hotel Hill and goes up over the hill. That's not Route 23 out, from the Four Corners out to Route 15.
No, no,
Yeah,
It's just
you
Main
sure?
no, that's not.
Route
23 goes-
23 ends right up here at
Yeah.
15.
You sure? Cause I
Yeah.
believe that.
I think he's right, 23 ends right here.
It's at
The corner.
at the corners.
Was
Really?
it in Dowdy?
That would explain why it's plowed that way, if it does. So we've got to make a decision where to go with this, so we can move on.
I think we should do an ordinance just because it's clear. But there needs to be a time when they're allowed to park there and when they're not allowed to park.
A lot of them will say no overnight parking.
Right.
Versus.
That's what most of them say, I think.
You in favor of just drafting an ordinance, no overnight parking?
If something's gonna be
Winter
forced,
hours.
yeah, if something's gonna be forced, then that's where we have to go.
Well, and overnight can be a gray area. I mean,
That's what I was just thinking.
It should
Is
be
that
like-
the side of the road or is that the public parking lot?
I don't mind,
Yeah.
I don't mind checking around and seeing what Dover and Guilford and Dexter and a few other towns have for ordinances and maybe drafting something up that we can discuss at our next meeting, if you wanna go that route.
But I've had tenants and myself parking in this public parking lot for over a decade and never had an issue until this last winter. So maybe it's not the plow contract, so the ordinance, maybe it's the subcontractor that was the issue.
I guess at this point, we really can't make a decision what to do because we don't have enough information. It would be my opinion that we... One other thing, Chris. What if there was an alternate place to park other than there? One of the things we've discussed some, and I think it's actually on our agenda.
It's on the agenda.
It's on.
You're going, I know where you're going, it's part of what I wrote up in the town manager's report. the
Oh, this is
details.
just dinging around in my head. I think at this point, with some of what we've got coming up and the downtown situation, I think I'd like to table this until the next meeting. We've got some things coming down through this agenda with the downtown spaces and stuff, and maybe we need to get through that first and see where we're at for parking before we even waste our time writing an ordinance that we may not need. If everybody thinks that that's a good solution, we'll table it for the next select board meeting and see where we go with this other item on the downtown stuff. You guys good with that? You're good with that, Chris?
I'm just looking for a solution here.
Yeah, so am I, and
You know,
you brought up the subject of the lot that's on the corner of your
ahead, yep.
business. It's in our agenda to talk about that lot. You know, the two birds and one stone thing. Maybe we ought to just get down through all of it before we make any decisions on what to do with an ordinance or lack of an ordinance. I make a motion, we table this and bring it to the next meeting with a little more information.
second.
I'll do some more research in the meantime.
Yep, and that just may be a way to solve all of the problems all at one time. Okay, moving on. Item C is fire department, accident billing.
Matt and I just had a quick discussion. We haven't got as much information from other departments as we'd like, so we'd like to maybe table that until another meeting. If that's, you in agreement with that?
Absolutely, yeah, we got, one, ordinance back from another town, but we really wanna see some other ones, and we haven't received them yet, so we'd like to just push that back if you guys are okay with it.
Okay. Make a motion, we table it.
Second.
Now, item D, the town corner lot, Chris Rowell and Numberall.
Well, I went over and met with Dan, what's his name?
Beardorfer.
Beardorfer, nice guy. He is absolutely certain that we own that lot The only thing he owns is that tiny corner of it, where his number all sign is. I believe, unless I misunderstood him, the number all did own that at one point and gave it to the town, I think. So,
Must be a deed on that.
It's dated in 2006 or 2007.
yeah, well, he said he got rid of the dam and the lot and was happy to do both, so, was what he told me, but, and his thing is, he said, you know, whatever the town decides to do with it, you know, it's not any concern of his. So, we do apparently own that lot. The valuation of it, I'm sure, is under $10,000. And there is an article that I assume passed at the town meeting last year that allows you to dispose of property under $10,000 in whatever way you see fit. Now, the only caveat I would say, and you know, no offense to Mr. Rowell here, but probably in the interest of fairness, and I can't imagine who else would want it, but if we were to consider selling it, that probably ought to be done in a manner in which everybody in the community has a fair opportunity to bid on it. Lance?
No, I'm just stretching my hand.
Oh, okay.
I do have one question about it, is there a possibility that the town would consider just putting a little bit of gravel and making it more town parking?
Well, interestingly enough, that's what the gentleman from Numberall suggested we do with it.
Right, I just don't know.
And I think that would certainly be an option.
That's a curb there?
There's a curb there, but there's an entrance right next to the bridge.
Cat's Alley entrance.
So that's where I was going with the previous item. I don't know that the town necessarily ought to park with the property, but if the town doesn't want to maintain it, is it doable for us to retain it and Chris plow it and use it for his tenant parking in the wintertime?
I don't see any reason why an agreement between Mr. L and the town of Sangerville couldn't be made to accommodate just that.
I think looking at it that way, you don't know what 50 years from now brings to what this town looks like, and, you know, parting with the corner lot in the center of our town, I'm not sure is the right answer.
Well,
and there might be, who knows? But
And Josh made a very good point to me when we discussed this earlier, is if we were to sell that and someone were to come in and try to develop it with some sort of structure, a sign, even planting a big tree there, that's gonna obstruct, you know, it's gonna make that intersection more unsafe, because it's gonna affect the visibility, which is pretty good right now. But I can't see where having a couple of cars parked there up next to Mr. Rowell's building is probably gonna affect that a whole lot.
I don't either, and I just wonder if it just solves everything and the town still retains ownership of it. What are you guys' thoughts?
I think for the sake of safety of somebody being parked on the side of the road at night versus being parked over there, even if we put $10,000 into this parking lot, which we wouldn't right now, I still think we're better off. But I wouldn't want to see that parking come out to the sidewalk.
I wouldn't either.
There's a tree there that's probably 6 or 8 feet back, and it would be nice if it went in line with that, so there was still a grass strip there. Maybe a little walkway from the parking lot along Chris's building, or closer to Chris's building to get to the sidewalk. But that way there's still a line of visibility. There should be enough room for a couple, 3 cars there.
What are your thoughts on that, Chris? You're the one that's the most affected by this, so we're
Like
looking
I said,
for
I'm
your
just
input.
looking for a reasonable solution here. So, if it's acquire the lot, then, like I said in the last meeting, there are restrictions you can put in deeds to keep it from being developed ever again, you know? And then there's the lease, I guess, option, is what Brian was talking about. You know, getting permission to, I have to maintain it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to, you know, have this really as formal as a lease or anything like that, as long as we have some sort of written agreement between you and the town that, you know, you'll.
I think it's something you'd have to ask our insurance company too, well,
I don't think it needs to be written. We just put a public parking spot down there and
you know,
that's it.
you know, if we label it as public parking.
Right.
Because it's highly unlikely, even if we labeled it as public parking, that anybody other than your tenants or people using your business would utilize it.
But then do you have an agreement with him to plow it out, or is it gonna cause another issue with being
Well,
plowed out? That's the other thing.
and that's kind of where, that's where my head was going with it. If that's where Chris's tenants parked, it would eliminate the downtown parking cluster, that'd be done.
But then who's gonna plow it? That's the other thing.
Is there only one way in, one way out, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
there's
rest is
one,
all curbing.
it's curbed around it, and there's one driveway right by the bridge.
So vehicles are gonna have to be able to, at a minimum, pull in and do a 3-point to get out.
Yeah, I don't wanna back out of that.
No.
Yeah, I would not wanna back out of that.
We're gonna have to push snow out into the main street.
And the other thing that Josh says is the line of sight. You know, if you were to come in and park right up next to the curb, then it creates a line of sight problem too, coming off from Dowdy Hill.
No, my thought was that the tenants would park with the nose toward the building,
Yeah,
and then be able to, like I said, 3-point turn or 4-point turn to get back out, but
how would you propose you deal with the snow if you were to plow it?
I'd have to, well, thin out the tree line there a little bit, so that I could push the snow down onto Cat's Alley, basically,
Yeah,
which, if you guys look around, it really technically doesn't exist, it's just a nickname.
right, right. My question is, and maybe it's a question for our insurance company, if we retain ownership of it and Chris plows it, is that a problem?
That's why I said I think it's gonna have to be a formal lease if that's the case.
That's where I'm going with that. We lease it or we sell it.
Right. When you lease it, there is still some liability involved, but the majority of it goes on to the leasing.
Unless we do the plowing ourselves, and then we're right back to
Yeah.
the same thing we got on the other side of the road.
And if you sell it, then you start acquiring tax money from the property versus not.
How's that work? Can you write up a contract or whatever agreement for him to plow it? How would that work for your insurance then? If he's like a subcontractor plowing that one spot?
These are all questions we really need the answer to before we can make a move.
The leasing would have to be responsible for snow removal.
Right.
You know, you'd have to put that in the lease agreement or the contract, however you look.
But if someone falls on that property,
I have,
it's not, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I have the liability coverage, so, I mean,
I will make a call to our insurance company and pose these questions, and we can bring it back the next meeting if you like.
Well, it's something we gotta, I mean, we're November 20th now,
Yeah, no kidding.
because
Yeah,
if we plan to take care of this for winter, we gotta get on to it.
yeah. So do you guys feel we ought to just have Brian do that little bit of homework and make a decision on it? Have it on the agenda for a decision? Now, if we opt to sell the property, the point was made that it really ought to be bid out, to be fair. How does that play out?
I don't know, the article written in the town warrant basically looked to me like it pretty much anything that has a value of less than $10,000, you can dispose of it however you feel is best for the town. And one of the things I did research on Maine law, now there are very, very strict rules on tax acquired property, but I don't believe that's tax acquired property. I think that was gifted to the town.
We gotta know that it was. We gotta be certain of it.
Right, but, I mean, so if it's not tax acquired property, which I can't, we can, I guess we can check with the registry of deeds on it. Can we give them a call?
You said it was 2006, Chris, the last deed on that?
We would have to do something with the numeral end of it too, would we?
What's that?
We have to do something with the numeral end of it.
No, they only own from the bridge to Cat's Alley.
Yeah.
Yeah, they own
They
it.
basically own where their sign and
So
their
it's not gonna interfere
communications
with that part
box.
of it?
What's
It's
that?
not gonna interfere with that?
I don't think so, cause that Cat's Alley driveway is on this side of the numeral sign. That sign is between that driveway and the bridge, the stream. Dam technically, I guess.
Alright, so I think I'd make a motion that we have Brian dig that up and make the decision in our next select meeting.
You made the motion? Did you make a motion?
Yeah,
Second.
Sorry?
okay. That's what we're doing. And then, as Josh said, I think that's probably more time sensitive. I think we need to get on it.
Yep.
And get it done, and I almost think that there's a way to solve the last two problems in the same motion, without having to have an ordinance. I hate the idea of having more
It
ordinances than we
really,
need.
this is really an easier and quicker fix than an ordinance.
This is a better fix for everybody all the way around.
And I have a question. So
Yes.
that means the property would stay in town hands though? It would stay
If we
in
did a
town
lease,
And then do the lease? Okay.
if we did a lease, it would stay in town hands. If we bid it or whatever, we would sell it and turn it into taxable property. We need to know the ramifications each way before we can make that decision.
It'd be nice to hold on to it. If you don't want anything up there, you want control of the property, I think.
Chris, just to,
My 2 cents.
just because what do you think a fair lease would be?
Probably what the property taxes would be on it. So like, property taxes on the building next door, the one that I own, or I think around $300 a year.
So if we leased it to you for what we would acquire in property taxes,
It's a win.
that's a
That's a
wash
win.
and a win, yeah.
It's
A win situation for the people in the town.
That seems,
It's a lose situation for me, it increases my tax bill, but hey, it happens.
Land.
So if you lease it, then the town doesn't have to improve the property for parking.
No,
So if he's a mud run in the spring, then
it's his mud run to deal with, yeah. He's leasing use of the property, end of discussion.
Right, any improvements would be on me.
Correct. And with that, with that lease agreement, there would be a couple of stipulations. One being that the line of sight being maintained coming off Dowdy Hill that's the biggest concern about turning that lot
and
over.
it's a DOT road, there's already a driveway there.
That's correct, the driveway already
Official
exists,
driveway.
yes. All right, moving on. Old municipal building. We had some items on that, and I'll just read down through them. The questions that I think Michelle had, basically.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so let me just read down through the questions, and then we'll see if we can find answers. We need to set up a date and time for moving records upstairs, possibly the use of the fire department. I know you had kind of tried to volunteer some of your guys at one point.
Yep.
I think she's calling that card, is what this is.
It's getting mighty cold in there.
Yes.
You guys
We did
just,
good for a while, then it got real
Yeah.
cold.
We can hold off for about 4 hours and then we're done.
You're done.
you guys set up the time and stuff with me when you wanna do it, and, I'll get as many people as I can, try to make it as quick and painless as possible.
So you can just coordinate that with Matt.
Okay, so we have completely done the town manager's office.
Mhm.
It's all boxed up, we've done the closet, we've got half of the main office is trash.
We
Mhm.
need to figure out.
Right. So I don't know if we want to do a
10% of what
dumpster,
we've discussed in the
are we
last
gonna have
week.
shelving to put books on?
But yes, I
Are
think we
what-
did.
What is the plan from here? We need direction.
So we need to deal with the trash.
Mhm.
I don't think we wanna pay a dumpster rental for a long period of time, so we probably ought to get the trash all put in a pile and then have the trash guys come.
There's a lot.
Is it just paper trash, is it?
It is everything, from binders to
We
metal.
probably don't wanna just put this in a pile somewhere, especially
we
if
want
it's
dumpster?
outside, because, you know, we don't want something that's
No,
gonna
you do.
attract rats.
No, you'd have to pile them in. So you think we need a roll-off or something?
Either load some trucks up and take it to Dexter. They're the big contractor bags. We have all we can do, we've pulled them across the floor to get them in, to get them out in the main room. But what else? Like, I know the downstairs, but we have trash and stuff upstairs. When you're packing records, what are you talking about? Just the main stuff that we have downstairs? I mean, because you do have some records upstairs, you have some in the basement.
I didn't realize we had anything upstairs.
There's a couple, there's in one of the
Like
rooms.
trunks.
Yeah,
Old wooden trunks with
yeah,
records
Okay, I
back to the
missed-
early 1900s.
I missed those, we probably ought to bring those down and go through them.
so, and there's 4 or 5 Christmas trees, old decorations. I mean, are we gonna clean this out so that engineers can be in there?
Oh,
Clean everything.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
okay,
I personally feel like your responsibility is taking care of our records. That's what we're concerned with. The cleaning up the trash, you're not janitors. You know what I mean?
We can look at doing that in warmer weather, and
Right.
when we get ready to do actual building work.
I personally am concerned about getting our records cleaned up and stored properly and put into the pods
okay.
and getting them moved over where they're secure.
A lot of
And-
that's where we're at, we need to figure out how we're gonna put them in the pods and some big, what did you say?
Totes.
Totes.
Totes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
To put some
And
of
it's
the other
probably
stuff
time
in.
to buy a couple of stout locks too, so we can. be
it
ready
is, so
to
we can
lock
start
up.
putting stuff, we moved
Because we've got
stuff out of
everything
the, right, we moved stuff out of our office today and brought it back over to this office.
Mhm.
And we know where that is, that's ready to go into the pods, this is what this pile is. We know what that pile is, that's gonna be stuff we don't need to get into, it just needs to be moved.
We got a big stack in the old, like, actual office area that just needs to be put somewhere too.
Right.
We got it all ready to,
And you've shredded the stuff that can be shredded.
Yeah, we've got it in our office, and she's shredding it.
We're at the point where we can move to phase B, basically.
Mhm.
How many hours do you think you have left going through the records and cleaning them to put them away?
I don't remember exactly what's downstairs, but as far as ours actually being in there, I think we're pretty much
We're
done
getting closer.
sorting. I think we're pretty much done sorting.
it's just moving it.
I think it's now, it's time to pack the pod.
Okay.
Mhm.
I asked that because if there was a bunch of cleaning or anything, I didn't know if there was an option to use here, if you guys were gonna shuffle. If
Well,
they're gonna lug up anyway, might be nice if you were all right with it, coming in here or,
Yeah.
Well, I know Jeff had mentioned about running an extension cord over and a heater just into the community room. We can go through everything in there.
It's a warm
but
place.
if they wanna do that, cause the stuff downstairs and the stuff in the safe that's upstairs is covered in mold. So we can't put those in the pods or anything until we wipe them all down and
And we
get that
don't
taken
wanna
care of.
bring them into this building either, under that circumstance.
Right, so that's
Covered in
where we're,
mold is probably not the greatest of ideas.
Well, the other thing is, I guess the reason I kind of prefer we keep it all in the old building is, you know, something happens to disrupt that in the middle of it. We really don't want 2 or 3 piles of records sitting in this building. If we have it all contained in there, we walk out, lock the door and come back to it. And we don't disrupt, don't disrupt fire department business, and B, don't have records that need to be locked up out in, you know, where something bad could potentially happen to
And
them.
move any of the mold into this space.
And
I think the
Exactly.
biggest thing we need their help with is getting everything upstairs. So,
yeah,
like she had mentioned, if we just keep passing up as we go instead of having to do the stairs a million times too, that might.
So do you think we get all the stuff brought upstairs and brought into the community room and we ran a cord over and just put a electric heater over there while
yeah, we
you,
can
just
close
while you're
that,
working there?
sure, we can close that door.
And then go through cleaning them and getting them in the pods, and then you're
Right.
not freezing to death doing it.
Yeah, today wasn't too bad, but.
For a while.
probably ought to have Matt here approve what we use as a temporary heating situation in there.
Just close your eyes.
Just build a campfire in the middle of the floor.
200 cables.
But I don't think it's the best use of our resources for these guys to be, you know, sweeping floors and cleaning up the trash and doing the trash detail. I was concerned about getting all of the records cleaned and packaged up and put where they
So,
go.
yeah, we'll focus on
Well-
the records.
So to clarify that a little bit, I
Okay,
mean, okay, if you've been in the building,
which I have.
we started in one corner and we could have, what did you find? You found something in the corner, thrown in the corner, we had to dig that out. But there's keys, there's papers, there's files, there's books. And
Just
you
in one
have-
closet today was a little of everything.
Right, you have to
Like-
start literally from
Yeah.
one corner to the other, and you're gonna find anything from records to birth records to keys to agreements to.
But I think where Jeff's going here, Michelle, is if we run into trash along the way in that process, we fill it in the contractor bag and leave it there.
Right, that's
leave
what
it.
we
Okay.
just
And
That's
just
what we've
focus
been
on
doing.
taking care of
That's
our
where I was
records.
going with it is,
Yeah,
as you sift through it, put the trash in the bag and just move on
That's
and the
what we
records.
call them.
it's all there.
And when all the records are out, we'll get a roll-off in here and swamp the place out so we can renovate it.
Okay, so now the next thing is, you had mentioned you had some shelving,
I've got shelving.
so
If we
what,
pop
you'd
that.
also mentioned the map case. What was your idea with the map case? I know you wanted it available for the planning board,
Right.
but did you intend for that to go into a pod, so they would have access?
Either into a pod or into the office at the town garage. Cause you don't have room for it where you are, you can't even get it in the building.
No, but see, and I've never been to the town garage, so I don't know what we're talking space there, so.
There's an office there,
There is, okay,
And it's heated, I believe.
and it's
It
heated,
is.
okay,
so,
Chris heats it.
so there's the option of just putting the maps there. You have control over who can get in, cause it's a locked door, with the exception of Chris and Warren and their crew, are the only other people with keys.
okay, so that makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
When you were talking about it before, I was trying to make it make sense, and I couldn't make it. I couldn't figure out what you wanted to do with the map.
My line of thought is that is something that we need access to.
What is it?
It's the whole big map case, all the lot maps.
Supposed to be heated, so.
Oh,
When you go in the old town office, you go in right to the left with all the maps.
yeah.
And we didn't wanna bury them in a pod and cover them and not be able to access them like if the planning board needed to go in and look at the maps, we want them available. So either we gotta set them up in that office over there, or pack them into a pod and try to put them in a way that you can still get to them.
Right, okay.
Speaking of that, we're on that subject. We're gonna be heating that this winter. It won't be Chris anymore, because we've got a pod going in there in the heated bay, at least one, correct? Because we wanted one to be dry and.
Make sure he knows that. It's-
Right, I talked to him once about it.
Yep. Hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, well, I just was kinda like,
Rattling around your
yeah.
head. So,
Have to be heated or?
Well, I mean, there's some records that'd probably be good if they stayed.
We probably ought to make sure it stays in that, 40-degree range.
a lot of the books with our records are leather-bound books, and they don't like moisture and hot and cold.
Really, especially the books that we're really overly concerned with, are like the 1800, early 1900 books, those are all leather bound. And those are the ones that currently have the mold on them, the worst.
And basically, we put the oil in there, or we did last year, I believe, anyway.
And then he
They
reimburses us.
reimburse us, we
Yeah.
just make sure we don't give him the bill.
Okay,
I mean, that's,
So, you're gonna coordinate with Matt
okay,
on a time that works for all of you to get the records up.
okay.
I feel like the totes would probably be faster and easier than trying to assemble shelves and keep them right side up while you're transporting. Cause you're gonna have a ramp truck take them over and they're gonna,
Right, and that's, yeah, I just want a clarification, because
Yep.
I'm trying to make it in my head.
my suspicion is packing it in totes, marking the tote what's in it, and stacking them so that you can walk inside the unit and see what's in each tote.
Okay,
do we have a label maker?
We certainly can buy one if we don't.
Black Sharpie.
Yeah.
I bet there's one in the town office.
we threw a whole bunch away today.
Which brings us to,
It's just buy them.
you have budget somewhere to purchase the totes.
I don't, we didn't, well, we still have some money. Wait a minute. We still have some money in one of these accounts that we had engineering and stuff for the town office.
We also have money, I mean, if we had to, it could come out of that 400,000.
Well, and we've got, we had 25,000 for renovations and engineering and whatever, we've spent some of that, but I could take it out of there, because it's for the town hall.
Right, I mean, it is the record storage. And you know where to get the totes or where you can get them from?
Yeah, I can go to Sam's Club and get the heavy duty black with the yellow tops, and use those, there's several different sizes you can get, we don't want them super heavy, but.
Boys pick it up.
Okay, so,
Where to go for the day.
You part of the boys, Mike?
Sure.
and the last questions are what we're gonna put in the pods, which I think we'll start with one of them, and I think put all the records in, and then if we need more space, move to the next one.
Okay,
And then if with furniture and stuff like that, I think we can just store it in the town garage out in the bay somewhere. I don't think we need to put it within those.
right,
Some of the records, didn't we talk at one time, some should be separate from others?
Right, so that's why we got two pods.
right,
So that, you've got one pod that's public information and one pod that's, a good example, welfare records. You don't want the public accessing somebody's welfare records.
right,
So that's why, that was the idea behind two pods, is to,
with all that stuff, yeah.
if somebody's gonna go over the key and get in the pod, you know which one they can get in.
Yeah. I think
But
we'll
I
fill
think
up
that-
one quite fast.
Right. But I think that's how we need to divide the stuff between the two of them, is stuff that the public can see and stuff that the public can't see. Do you guys agree
I
with
think
that?
that's kind of how we've been separating stuff
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
so.
Okay,
And-
so we have a plan then.
Yep, and instead of us micromanaging what to do, bottom line is, you're gonna get your totes, and, I mean, I don't think we need to vote on anything, and
No, I just kind of wanted your ideas. I know that this has been a big project and I want to do it, you know, the way that everybody feels is best for the town and their records.
So
So,
before we spend the money on all that stuff.
right, we just needed some guidance.
We'd kinda left some things up in the air about, like, we talked about totes and shells, and
Yeah.
we talked about a lot of this, but we've never really made any.
I'm game for whatever works for you guys. You're the ones that gotta work out of it when it's done.
Okay,
I'll go whichever way.
we'll make it happen.
It's gonna work for you, you gotta use it. I have no idea what you need.
Okay, so then we'll just take care of it.
That's right.
I'll coordinate with Matt and we'll get it done.
And I,
Hopefully before snow flies.
you don't need an authorization from us to purchase the totes, cause you have a budget for it,
Right.
correct?
Yeah, I can offer it.
While we're on that building subject, did you ever hear back from the engineers that didn't show up last week?
I emailed them again, and I have still not heard anything back. Steve's a nice guy, but his communication skills leave something to be desired. But I won't be giving him a call within the next week. Sometimes he answers his phone, sometimes he doesn't. Kinda a lot like you calling me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've discussed everything on that subject. Moving on next, tax acquired property for 2022.
So, I have heard from Kenneth and Brooke Nicholson. They own the house that used to be Diana Bowley's house. They really would like to try to get that back. So I explained to them that usually at this point in time, it's the board's decision what to do with that building. You can ask them to just simply pay 22 and then keep working on the other years, or you can make them pay for it all at once, like get your stuff caught up. They don't think they can give you all the money, which is about $3,200, in all one lump sum. Like they would have to maybe be able to get it paid by the end of December. Because I said, well, like what time frame? So it really is kind
They
of
said by the first of the year.
first, yeah. Some, you know, whatever time frame that you feel will work. Considering the new laws and the stuff that you have to go through, it would almost be better if you could put them on a payment plan of some kind and give the property back to them. Because otherwise it's getting a broker. It's putting, you know, going through all of that legal stuff, rather than just selling it back to them for the taxes that they owe.
And I went over there, that property's in fairly rough shape.
It is.
I think this would be another one as a tax acquired property where we would be lucky to recover our costs. So if these people can make good and pay their taxes, Michelle and I have talked about this, we really think the town is better off if we allow these people some leeway in a payment plan to get this done.
Now, they've had, all the way through,
They've had multiple opportunities to pay their taxes.
Right, it takes 28 months to take a house.
right. We're not in the real estate business and we don't ever want to take anybody's house.
Right.
Just state that right up front. The only downside to this is setting precedent from
Exactly.
here on out. Well, you can't take my house because you didn't take their house, and
But if you set a precedent of giving them a limited period of time, and you applied that universally going forward.
now, the next question, do we have a policy or an ordinance?
No, we do not.
None, either way, not a policy
No, we
or an
do not.
ordinance on how to deal with that.
we do that?
Wait a minute. I think there is.
There is a tax
it's
acquired property
Policy,
policy, yes.
yes.
But once foreclosure takes place, I don't believe there's
I don't
anything
think there's anything.
in that policy, cause I read that policy just the other day, but I've read a lot of policies and ordinances over and over again the last few days. But I don't believe that once it is foreclosed upon, that there are anything, and if I remember correctly, that was one of those policies we needed to update because it's not consistent with current state law.
Right. So you can, I mean, you can tell them you need to come up with $3,200 and you're gonna have it done by December 31st. You can set the timeline, you can say, no, we're not going to. We're gonna go to the route of putting it in the broker's hand. But if you make any money on that, it goes to them anyway.
Right. So here's some line of thought with that too. If this is where we're at, and we can't save the house for $3,200, what's that property look like 5 years from now?
Worse than it does now. Because they live in Los Angeles, California.
That's my point. Are we doing the citizens of the town of Sangerville a favor by allowing that to just further decay into the ground? Or are we better off to cut it loose and turn it over to somebody that's gonna do something with it?
However, just to play devil's advocate here, there's no guarantee at all that somebody's not gonna pick it up on Zillow, cause we have to list it with a realtor.
Right.
And come in and do exactly the same thing, just let it sit.
But we already know what's gonna happen right now. If we can't get through the $3,200 to save the house has gotten,
Well, history has proven that that is true.
right.
So if they pay a portion of that, enough to cover 1 year's taxes, do we divert right back to, we gotta wait another 28 months, or now is it that it's foreclosed on? If they
No,
don't pay
if
the
they
whole
don't, if
thing?
they don't pay, if we have them pay the 2022 taxes owed, then if they don't pay the 2023 taxes by July,
November 1st.
November 1st, then they're back into foreclosure again.
But you
Right,
said
but I mean,
they have to pay all the-
it's under foreclosure now.
Right.
So,
So if we let them pay and they, and let them pay part of it, we could be right back into foreclosure again in another year.
Well,
yeah,
with
but I
this-
mean, does it even come out of foreclosure if they
No,
don't
it
pay the whole
doesn't.
thing?
Because 2022 is where we took ownership. So even if they just pay 2022, it's still our building. Because that kind of erases the next 2 years. The only way for them to get it back is to pay all 3 years.
They know that now.
They do.
Yeah.
They probably knew that before, just.
Well, I was present in
Didn't
the
think we were
office when
gonna take
Michelle
it.
had that conversation with them when they called in, so. There is no, in my mind, there can be no ambiguity on their end about what it requires for them to do financially with the town of Sangerville to get that property back.
They've been under payment arrangements already though, haven't they?
They have made very random payments over the last two months maybe. Like $70 here, $20 here, $50, very, and he said, oh no, we'll pay it all off by this date, and that didn't happen. They called last week and said, well, we can pay off the 2022, and I said, you need to hold your payment, because I need to talk to the board. So they have the rest of 2022, as long as they haven't spent it by now, but, to make that payment tomorrow.
The reality is, they have had 28 months to not be in this situation. So, and multiple opportunities and multiple communications from this office. So that is something to consider when you're considering this situation.
I mean, I'll share my feelings on it. I think that we give them an opportunity to redeem it one shot. If you can't, then we're following through and we're gonna list it and do what we gotta do. like you said, we've done payment arrangements, we've done this and that. I really think if you're looking at it through the eyes of the citizens of Sangerville, the best thing that could happen would at least be put into different hands and head in a different direction than it is now. It's not gonna get any worse.
Grow house.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's how I feel on it, is we've given them their 1, 2, 3, 4
Four,
opportunities. They use
By the
it.
time you
They
get
used
your
it up.
property foreclosed, you have had so many opportunities to pay what you owe. And again, we're talking, what, $3,000 here, we're not talking $75,000.
Right. And I don't wanna be the guy that takes somebody's house for $3,000.
And I can tell you, when I sat on the board in Dover, I felt the same way. I hated the thought of taking somebody's property, but every once in a while, when it comes time to cut your losses. Now, is that January 1, or is it, you know,
Right.
some other point in the future? That's up for you three gentlemen to decide.
I'm of the opinion, and you guys put your opinions in, I'm of the opinion that we give them 7 days to pay the $3,200, or we follow through and foreclose on it.
Well, we've already foreclosed.
Follow through and list it, I mean.
I'm good with it.
I'd be okay with 7 days, yeah.
If they can come up with $3,200 in 7 days.
Or you can even stretch it 3 days and say by December 1st, if you
Mhm.
wanted to.
Yeah, that's a date not to forget, yeah.
I make a motion, we give them an option to pay in full in 7 days.
7
And
days, okay.
7
If they
days
do
from
not-
today or tomorrow when we talk to them.
when we talk to them tomorrow, 7 days,
I second that.
and we'll move forward. It's a vote. You have instruction, Michelle.
Very good.
That way we're not, they get the last chance. Okay, we're gonna move on to new business.
You got your pens ready, because you get a bunch of signing to do.
Okay,
I'll bring you up to speed real quick on the budget committee. At our last meeting, we decided that the 6 people that were at the information session would be 6 of the 7 positions on the budget committee. We had changed the policy so that it would have 7 people. You voted on that policy. 6 of them we're going to appoint, and Diana Bowley and Cynthia Hall, neither one of them could be there, but we're both interested. I've had contact with both of them by email, and they made the decision that Cynthia would like to be the alternate and Diana would like to be the committee member.
The 7th?
The 7th committee member, yes.
I'm very happy with that. So that committee is done and decided.
As soon as you make your appointments, make those appointments official, yes.
They're all laid right out
Right
there.
here, okay.
Yep, you have several different sets of appointments there. And I spoke to Melissa Getchell, earlier this afternoon, and she is interested in being the co-chair of the old municipal building if we are appointed.
One of the
And I don't know
things,
how that works.
one of the things, and I think we got a little bit confused here on our agenda, Michelle, is on the town hall committee, actually, I have drafted a policy that essentially changes that from an ad hoc to a
Standing.
standing committee. Unfortunately, I forgot to include that draft in with when I sent you your packets. However, what it does is it basically puts a paragraph into the current policy we have, changing them from an ad hoc to a standing committee with the appointments to be redone every year annually at the town meeting and up to 25 people on the committee.
So can we even sign them tonight, not having that policy.
not having the policy.
Or you can basically take my word for it that that's the policy and, because all it is a paragraph change in that policy. You can direct me to make that paragraph change and that will effectively create the policy.
I don't know enough about it to be sure. I asked the question because I was not sure.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'm right with you, Josh.
Well, you can just add in, we'll just come inside it.
But you wanna make the appointments tonight, but we don't have the policy corrected from ad hoc to standing committee.
Right. Like I said, I've done the work, I just totally forgot to put it, and I apologize for that, but I could email that policy out to you guys first thing in the morning too,
Mm-hmm.
so.
It's just hard to do the appointment without policy.
Right.
Cart before the horse. Let's get through this one right here first, I guess. We're on the budget committee, so let's complete this one. So you need a signature on each one of these appointments.
Yes,
Correct.
please. Yep. And you can take them apart, the paper clothes. Do you want to
Did we
read the
skip over
names?
Kelsey's? We must have.
I think you have, yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to read the names that you're appointing,
Yep.
so that for the reading?
So I'll sign them and I'll read each one. You don't wanna read the whole thing,
Hang on.
just the
No,
name.
just the name.
You know what, by the time you get this done, I can probably be down to the office and back with that policy.
Fair idea.
How about we do that?
Thank you.
Okay, so. The first appointment. So we're doing appointments to the budget committee. First appointment, Bridie Armstrong. Second appointment, Cynthia Hall, and Cynthia is going to be the alternate. Third appointment, Diana Bowley. Fourth appointment, Patricia Davis. Fifth is Paul Davis. Sixth is Richard Cabot. Seventh is Shelley Blockler. Now we had 7 members,
Should have gone.
an alternate. 1, 2,
He said there was 6 in an alternate,
Right. That's-
4.
so you just,
I think the committee was 7 with an alternate, wasn't it? So
Yeah,
I'm
we do
number
have 7 with an alternate.
7 with an alternate, there's one missing.
Ron Taylor was supposed to be.
Rhonda Taylor.
Rhonda Taylor, okay, so we'll get an appointment set up for her.
Yep, so we are missing the
seven,
appointment.
one of them, I don't know.
We're missing the appointment for Rhonda Taylor, so
Okay.
we'll have to sign that as well.
There's one too.
Yeah. You probably have to go and print that.
Yeah, we do, I'll just have it at the office if you want to swing by and sign it.
Okay.
Like I said, unless I mixed up in one of the other ones, I was going,
Yeah, she
making a
had,
ton
Let me
that
just
day.
run right down through it.
I know she was in 2 or 3 of them that I did, so.
yeah, there's a par. and-
You understand?
Yeah. I feel bad for the selectmen
Priscilla.
20 years from now when they have to go back through and read some of this and they read mine, they say, who is that? 'Cause they ain't never gonna know.
Let's see. Nope, so you don't have it mixed in, so it's just, we're just missing it.
Alright, get it done tomorrow.
And I saw that mine was in the town hall committee, which is gonna come out.
Oh, that's right too.
I was wondering that, but it was on the list, so I just made them all.
Yeah, so we're gonna remove that one.
Okay.
You can just rip it out, Jeff.
Recycle.
So I heard from Josh when I sent this out, because he didn't get it and then he did get it. Did you guys get this? The new, agenda?
Yep, I got it twice.
You did, okay.
Yep, I got 2 copies of it.
He forgot about the thumbs up thing. You know what's funny is I got that 3 times.
You get it 3 times?
I got one almost 8 hours later.
Oh, no kidding.
I was like,
I don't know, should get mad at talking to the guy.
Okay, so while we're waiting for him to get back, we'll skip around a little bit here. We can do Kelsey's appointment to her position.
I understand though, is this confusing for you guys?
it's not confusing, it's just,
Hard to read.
the other one was all in line and moving over and adjusting back all the time.
Yeah, it does it automatically. I can make the print bigger, I think, but that's about all I can do.
We'll get used to it. We're just a bunch of old guys that are used to one way.
Okay, so this next appointment we're gonna sign, is appointing Kelsey Shannon as deputy tax collector, deputy treasurer, deputy registrar of voters, deputy town clerk. Many hats.
Whatever a master told to do.
And we kind of made the executive decision this week that she's gonna take the lead on the town website. We've been working on that, she's got some really good ideas.
And I'll talk to a bunch of you guys about some of them.
So we have a meeting tomorrow, I believe, with the gentleman that starts the webpage itself. So will be first thing in the morning,
Mhm.
so.
That's cool.
Do we have road committee appointment papers in there?
There's only 2 though.
All that there
It
was
should be
on.
Butch and Jamie, right?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
all that there was on.
There's 2.
Butch and Jamie Dorr. Back
Yeah.
one.
The back row.
East Sangerville crowd.
Did we put a sign-up sheet out for that? I'm surprised we only have 2 people interested in
Yeah,
that.
that's all that signed up, and I think that Brian said somebody else showed interest after he put it on Facebook yesterday. But maybe it was for something else.
Hmm,
I'm pretty sure he said road committee.
they'll ask him.
That was faster than grease lightning right there.
What's that?
He said that was faster than grease lightning.
You missed it, we appointed Kelsey for the winner of all the hats.
Good. Basically what we have here,
That's 1 for each one of us.
yeah,
Okay, so, do you wanna go ahead and read it?
yeah. This is a proposed change to town hall committee status from that of ad hoc. Committee paragraph G, heading 2, subheading D of Sangerville Boards and Committees Policy to a standing committee under new paragraph G of the same policy. And it says Town Hall Committee, the Town Hall Committee shall meet regularly to advise town manager and selectmen on decisions concerning the renovation of the town hall. Upon completion of the renovation project, the committee will continue to exist to advise on occupancy and usage of the building and required maintenance projects. Committee members will divide into subcommittees or work groups to help with planning work, reviewing project bids, engineering studies, fundraising, grant research, etc. Number 1, bullet point below it, committee will consist of 25 regular voting members. Number 2, all members will be appointed or reappointed annually at the town meeting. And this fits right into the current policy on boards and committees that the town has.
Okay. Very good. So, we're gonna go down through and sign the appointments for the Town Hall Committee.
Why don't you have a formal vote on that first, just to make things
Okay, good
nice
idea.
and clean.
Very good idea.
There's a question from,
Would you give me a copy of that, please?
I actually brought an extra, Dennis.
Thank you.
So this is just the broad language of the policy. Once the board, once the committee comes together, they'll elect their own,
Their business
Their own-
is, they're just like every other standing committee at that point.
and we have a policy on how each standing committee does that,
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
So
which
they'll-
if you want that policy, Dennis, I'd be happy to copy it for you anytime you wanna come in the office. And that, the legalese type paragraph, all that stuff, that says where it goes directly into that policy.
Okay, so I make a motion, we accept this policy as written.
Second.
The committee will consist of 25 regular voting members. Does that mean that has to have 25?
Or is it supposed to be
Or
up
should it say
to?
up to?
I think I meant to say up to.
Okay, so
So I can, you can
Let's make a
approve it, you
nomination.
can approve it with that change.
We'll make a motion to approve it with that change.
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Consists of up to. So make a motion, we enact this policy with the change of up to 25 regular voting members.
Second.
Vote. Okay, so this is our new policy, and now we can appoint to that committee. So, as we sign them, I'll just read the ones that are in the appointment list. So the first one, we decided that,
I basically used, for the people on this list, I used the list that you gave to Sandy to email to me.
yep, okay, so, just to be clear in our policy, the first one brings us up, Cindy Pulliard is not a resident of Sangerville.
She contacted me and said she was living somewhere else. I don't know if she's made a residency change, but
How is our policy going to read on resident, non-resident? Because we have two members on this committee that are very interested in the project and that are not residents of Sangerville. And we didn't address that here.
we didn't address that there. Now, again, we can step back from it. And you can make a motion that says, I add another clause to this that says residents only.
Or not,
Well, they're very valuable members of our committee.
they are, and
I
I agree
don't
with
wanna put
Priscilla.
resident-
This,
Community.
You tell me
Community.
what to do and I will do it. How's that here, folks?
I think in this particular committee, like Sue, she's very involved with the
Universalist Church, yes.
with the sister building, and I think the input is good. And this is an advisory committee. So again, I think they need to, maybe we just leave it that they put it into their committee rules. I just wanna make sure we're not doing something we shouldn't be doing,
I'm
that's
gonna
all.
jump in here as
Okay.
town registrar.
That's what I'm looking for.
It would be one thing if they were there to give ideas, but I don't think they should be voting members. I think
That's-
citizens should only be the voting members of the committee.
That's probably true, cause like with me as a permanent member of the budget committee, I'm an advisory member only. I can't vote. Well, I can't vote because of the way the policy is construed, but even if I could vote, I couldn't because I live in Dover.
Yep. So let's take a step back.
To make it so that they're still on the committee, but they're not a voting member of the committee.
An advisory
An
only.
advisory members.
Yeah,
You know, like anybody can come and sit and maybe add ideas or whatever, but any voting or decisions would have to be Sangerville residents committee members. So I wouldn't even put a non-resident on the committee because they can't vote.
How about holding office on the committee, like being secretary or?
I wouldn't think so, no, because they can't vote.
I would agree with you on that.
It's not a paying position.
Could that be
It's not like-
opened up to like district? Because in reality, Sangerville, you can walk to Guilford.
Yeah.
Parkland's not that, you know, it has to be just Sangerville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we don't wanna discourage their input, 'cause during the previous committee, they had really great input.
Don't appoint them, just let them show up.
I was gonna say, anybody can go to a public meeting, right? I mean, it would be open to
Right,
the public.
every standing committee, the rules are that an agenda has to be published within 24 hours of the meeting. The meetings are open to the public and the public has a right to record all the proceedings unless the process of recording proves to be disruptive to the meeting. Now, as far as whether to invite them to have input, that would, I guess, fall to the committee leadership. Or if the committee did their own rules or something for that fact.
So under our policy, can we appoint somebody? If you're appointing them as a voting member of the committee.
Right.
So we can't appoint them to be a voting member of the committee. However, we certainly can include them
They
in
can
their
have
ideas
input.
and have their input.
Right.
They're just not gonna be able to be appointed as, because the appointment gives them the right to vote.
Right.
That's what that is.
And probably, and I would say everything's nice and clean and legal. I agree, they shouldn't, a non-resident shouldn't be voting on Sangerville business.
the part I struggle with is obviously those two and Jeff, feel that they had a lot of input, and it sounds like it stinks to me that they have to sit in from the outside. That's how they're gonna feel, and I hate to push somebody away or make them feel like they're an outsider. But I do agree with the voting part. I just wish we could make them feel like they were a part of the committee. Is that where you two were? I'm trying to read facial expressions and I'm,
The only way to have them be a complete member of the committee is to stay ad hoc, in other words, right?
So if it was an ad hoc committee, then it's the committee's rules. It's not a town appointed committee. And we just wanna dot the i's and cross the t's legally with the appointments. Because once we appoint somebody in a committee, they are a voting member of that committee, and if they're not a member of the town, I question, I think Michelle is right with what she's found with it not being legal. And I absolutely don't wanna discourage the involvement that they had, because, I mean, Sue was an incredible resource for
Oh,
us.
yeah, she was secretary sometimes.
Well,
Yeah,
and
Well,
it's,
Michelle, if Michelle wants to do vice chair,
you mean
Melissa.
Melissa?
I mean Melissa, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I mean, it's not that they can't have input, they can come and they can talk to the board members and they can, you know, say their piece or throw ideas around, but the board itself, the committee itself are the deciding voting people. So you're not saying that they can't have input, you're not saying that they can't come to every meeting. But they don't have the authority to vote.
But they can still take a position like secretary or.
Maybe
Can't
to
do that
fill
either.
in, but I would say it would have to be,
Gray area.
right,
Or be like the head of like a fundraising committee.
that would be something different, I think.
That would be something
I
different.
don't know how.
And I know where you're going with
We
this,
break
Priscilla.
down into
But-
things,
Right.
yeah, like this person.
Sue had some really
She was
good
like one of the-
research on raising money for this project and raising awareness for this project. And I absolutely would not wanna discourage either her or Cindy
Yeah,
from being involved.
But I don't
they did more work than a
think,
lot of town, a lot of us.
I don't think that would be effective because they're not voting. The board,
Right.
the committee is saying, okay, we need this fundraising group. And we need this, and you had the fundraising for the candy bars for the.
They could be assigned by, say Dennis ended up being the chair, Dennis could assign tasks to them,
Right.
even though they're,
So it's not a committee when you break it down
It would
into
be like a
fundraising.
task.
Right.
we're just trying to make sure every single move we make is by the book. And
It would really be no different than you taking somebody from Guilford and putting them on the budget committee, you know what I mean? It's, in reality.
Right,
Well-
I can't vote in Kingsbury.
Right. So
mhm.
I think they'd be 100% welcome in all the work they wanna do and all the ideas they wanna have, but I don't think you can make them
Right.
an actual.
I don't think, and what we're talking about is appointments, and by appointment, that makes them a voting member of that committee.
Right,
And
and the only way to do that is if it was ad hoc, not a standing committee of the town.
that is correct.
That's correct, okay, so that's the decision then with that.
Right, and I think as a group, we all want to pull this town hall committee in and have us all be one.
Oh, yeah, we need to. do
One unit.
group. Yeah.
And in the ad hoc is, I mean, whatever we decide is fine,
Yeah,
but,
right.
you know, I think we need to move forward in unity as a group of people, you know?
I think we can work it out. They're both reasonable people.
Yes, they're very
Right, and-
reasonable,
I think that sounds like the best answer to you right there.
yeah.
I think the solution to it is while we've backed up, do we wanna add an addendum to this policy on the residents?
I don't think we need to, because I think what Michelle just said, I think that, and I would have to go back and, I'll go back and reread that policy again, but I'm pretty sure that the inherent, or the policy, pretty much says that it's a resident only situation.
So I think the thing to do then is, we've already voted on the policy as it's written here with that one change. And
It's
we'll,
just not appoint,
we'll just skip the
non-residents.
appointments of Sue and Cindy.
And the folks that do get appointed, when they organize themselves, they can, and, you know, for that matter, there's nothing that says you can't invite subject matter experts and people that wanna help in from any corner of society there.
When it comes down to them taking the information they've collected and making a vote to bring it forward,
It has,
that's what this appointment is about.
yes.
They can have as many people there at their meetings as they want. All right, we'll move forward then. Someone just read them off as we sign them. First one is Dennis Campbell. Second, Diana Bowley. Third is Dick Bell. Fourth is Diane McCarthy Clark. Fifth is Gerald Peters. Sixth is Sandy Peters. Seventh is Kelly Doyle.
Double up.
Eighth is Lance Johnson.
I thought he meant.
And an officer of the town be on the committee.
Let's stop right there and
I believe you can be on the committee. I think if we check with MMA, they would say that you probably can't be an officer of the committee. But like in Dover, Foxcroft, I checked it when I became a selectman, because when I became a selectman, I was on the fire department, I was health officer, and I was on the budget advisory committee. And MMA said, health officer, budget advisor, and, oh yeah, in the EMA guy. They said, get rid of all those, you can stay on the fire department, you just can't be at a position above a captain on the fire department. And these guys are municipal officers. You kind of fall in a little bit different subcategory there, so I think you're absolutely fine, but you probably would be best if you did take an officer position.
I can't run myself most of the time.
you think that's how it would read?
I believe so, yes.
Get away out of that. Yeah, they bring that by for.
Okay, next is Louis Rutka. And Mary Ann Rutka. And here's another one, Matt Lockler. Kind of the same as Lance, you think?
Yes. Yeah, he's in his own category.
We're not even gonna touch on that.
Melissa Getchell. Mike Gilbert. Pat Bell. Patty Davis. Paul Davis. Phil Downs. Priscilla Johnson. Rick Dobson. And then
Dennis, just so you're aware, I don't have a accurate email address for Rick Dobson either. So the one I have keeps coming back as undeliverable.
I'll check with him.
And the last one is Tom Kemp. And the two that we pulled out the non-residents was Sue Griffith and Cindy Pulliard. Okay. So we're gonna have a print of this policy, and we've got all our appointments. That one's done. Next, the road committee appointment.
Was it somebody else who showed interest, you said, or was that something else?
Jamie and Butch are the only ones that I have actually told me they're interested in being on the road committee. I put out a basic plea to the citizenry yesterday on the website and Facebook that we could use some help with committees, but.
So this, right now we have 2 members for the road committee. What does our policy read on road committee? Or do we have a standing policy?
The road committee is listed in that same policy. For the life of me right now, I can't remember if it was its own paragraph or ad hoc. But I think it's its own paragraph, it's its own standing committee.
And it's 5, I believe.
And I believe you are correct.
Up to 5.
Up to 5.
Okay. So what we'll do is, we'll appoint the 2 that have interest and leave it open. If we have more interest, we can do further
That was
appointments.
kind of my assumption, that would probably be the best thing to do. Because if we get 2 people willing to help us out, I'll take the help.
Right. All right, so we'll move on to the appointments for the road committee. First one is Butch Lemio. Second one is James Dorr. So East Sangerville's well represented.
That's what I was gonna say.
Now we need some South Sangerville.
We probably ought to get some people on this committee that aren't just in East Sangerville.
Chris left too soon, we could get him to represent downtown Sangerville.
I was gonna say.
I'm kinda all for them East Sangerville people.
The resident from South Sangerville, I see sitting there awful quiet right now.
Hey, I'll say one thing. I'll commend you guys because I was born and raised here. I left for 30 years, been back for 16 years, but I've seen more get done in 6 months than I have in 16 years. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Compliments are welcome.
So we'll all get together, or you'll have to get together with them at some point.
Yeah.
Because we gotta come up with a list for next year.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all we had on the road committee, correct?
Correct.
Okay, the next 2 items, the old municipal building committee policy, which
We just covered
we
that.
covered all that in the town hall, both. Okay.
You're down to,
I did it twice, yeah.
So the next item G, is Manhannock Pond Dam.
Finally up, Eric.
What's on?
We put you at the end, so you can enjoy it with the rest of
I
us.
just listen and I see what, you
you
know.
want,
We didn't ask you to come out.
Well, no, I'm gonna give you something to look
you
at.
want to be on the road committee by any chance?
Well, here you go.
It would be appreciated.
Thank you guys.
You got one, and you get one. You guys can break it all up, whatever. You'll have to share. You'll have to
So I
share.
actually walked out and physically took a look at it the other
Right at the
day.
end of Flanders Hill.
Okay.
That's- he's built a new one.
All right, my name's Eric Curtis. I'm the president of the Manhattan Pond Road Association. So I got 2 miles of road to take care of. And instead of being bombarded with 40 camp owners screaming and yelling at people, I just said I'd represent everybody. I've been a camp owner since 2017. I'm responsible for 31 landowners and camp owners. And as it says, 11 of them from Parkman and 20 from Sangerville, and pretty much the South Shore and East Shore from Manhattan Pond down. In 2021, I believe, and first of all, yeah, thank you for all you guys getting elected and everything, and I've seen a lot of good things, and I was at the flag ceremony, and it was excellent.
Thank you.
So, hope to get somewhere. I brought this up to the town before. I had got a quote from Gordon Excavation at the time to go in and dig some sediment, put some boards back, or not really some boards, they were gonna use a polycarbonate or something up to date. About $8,500, and then the next year it went up another $1,000. The town wanted to go research with the state because the Department of Conservation said they had some money that would help take care of all these costs. About 3 weeks down the way, they came and looked at it. There's no damage to the cement part of it, it's the boards. They did admit that there was something. They thought it could be about 3 years before they could get to it. Well, we're beyond 3 years or right at it. I didn't have any old pictures, but let's just start on the first page. Basically shows the, it just points out where the gate is and the spillway. So your dams have gates and spillway. This is a very basic dam. Your gates, when they're totally closed, no water should be running through them. It goes out the spillway. If you use the gate, you open up gates for debris to go through, or if you're expecting a lot of high water and you need to get rid of some water, you do that. I don't think this gate has probably been in there since 1975. When we get looking at further pictures in here, the rotten wood. So another thing I was showing too.
That was a quick question I had.
Yeah.
It didn't appear there was any mechanism to raise the gate
There isn't,
unless you.
so nobody just goes and does it on their own.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright,
I
makes
think it's
sense.
either a porta powder, some type of a chain and come along.
Yeah,
That would
alright.
rise it up, but otherwise the kids would do it and the pond would be drained.
Okay,
So-
that makes sense. I just
Yep.
noticed, that was just one of the
Yeah,
things I noticed.
so I've been in touch with Tommy Rotano, which is in charge of like 8 dams in Dover, because in the years past, when the town had public works, back in Brian Wolf's days, they were dam keepers. You're supposed to have a dam keeper for every dam. Currently, at the time, they didn't. Jim Cupperson was a longtime resident of Sangerville, and Ronnie Robinson used to go down and pull boards out on the spillway and adjust the pond. The pond has got multiple springs in it, along with water from Pingree Center and Sucker Brook that comes down, and some other small tributaries. A lot of your residents that have been on here have been there 40, 50 years. And I don't care if it's a drought or whatever, they've always maintained decent water level, even in times like this. This year actually was a pretty good year because we had rain real quick. We got a lot of it, and then we didn't. So it stayed up pretty good, but as of late, as you can see, it's gone across. So basically I was just showing, because it's hard to predict sometimes when this pond is gonna be at its low water level, because you know what your spring's gonna deliver. I mean, I had last October, I couldn't see my dock, my boat was almost sitting on it in October. It shouldn't do that, but we got 2 inches. We're looking at 2 inches this weekend, so probably it will be coming over the dam and it'll be good shape. If you go to page 2, that's supposedly a closed gate. No water's supposed to go through that. 3 years ago, the seams were just breaking. You could see it seeping through. That's gushing now at about 6 holes through it. Below that is below that's your spillway. That's where the water's supposed to be coming over initially first. And then you have another board that you could put in if you wanted to block it by, and what that's gonna do is gonna bring up your water level to actually go over the dam. So if you guys, all of you have been residents here for a long time, and really, other than the last 4 or 5 years, that dam has always had water going over it, always. And that's part of it. If you have the gate shut, there's enough water coming, and you can put that board in or out from the top to keep it over your dam. So you've got a spillway not working properly because it's all going through the other. So you're looking at, I wouldn't be surprised if 20 or 30,000 gallons an hour is going through that gate. You know, or because at least 10,000. Because if you take a 3-inch hose off a gravity-filled truck, it doesn't take about an hour to get rid of it. I mean, there's a ton of water coming out. And if you look at the page 3 at the bottom, that's the top piece of one of the boards of the gate. That thing is toasted. My concern is that in 3 years, if we've gone from a seeping hole to that, if that breaks at the wrong time, there's a lot of water coming out, and we don't know if it's coming with ice in the middle of it and whatnot. There is an area, you said you looked at it, because there is an area in front of it, you can block it to slow down water. I mean, the one I saw in Kingsbury this year, they did sandbags around the gate, and they did sandbags around the spillway, replaced everything. You had mentioned that someone had cut the lumber already for it.
I had heard, we had talked about this once before, and Blaine knew has been involved with it, so
Mhm.
he'd be the person to talk to.
He cut the lumber for it in late nineties, early two
The
thousands.
lumber was it was in the town garage and
There-
it disappeared.
There was one or two pieces that
Mhm.
disappeared, yeah.
And I don't know if this stage in day and age, if you're better off with a lifetime material with rubber gaskets in it that slide in one on top of the other, and they never rot. And it may be
I think
getting
it
involved with
It
an,
was wood because it swelled and sealed, and
well, it's a possibility, but I mean, this, in today's world.
I know we're at kind of a dry period in the fall right now, but I didn't see a lot of water going through that the other day when I was out there. Yes, there was some, but, you know, that picture, I think you must have taken a little early.
I hung over, no, that was November 11th.
Was it?
Yeah, I hung over the edge.
I didn't hang
Oh,
over. so
oh,
I think
no,
we were-
no, that's why I took it, cause I mean, it's
I
showing.
didn't have any interest
Okay.
to go and swim in.
Sure, no, me neither.
Down there.
Me neither, I get that. But there's quite a current coming out of that should be going out of
And
this building.
one of the issues that it looked like to me is there's a lot of silt in front of the dam. Is that part of one of the issues with it?
Well, what it does is it keeps pushing and pushes and pokes
Right.
on the weak part of the wood and drives through.
So that would be part of the fix to this would be to get somebody with the right permits to go in there and dig that silt out.
Right.
Do you need permits to maintain your own dam?
I don't know. That would be another question I'd have to
Why
ask.
it's water, I don't think so.
Michelle's nodding her head up and down like
Pretty
crazy.
sure anything with water.
Brian Howard
as long as there's.
seemed to think that he was all, I mean, at the time, it's something he could do. There are contractors that have already been through the work and the whole deal, and you can take an excavator in up to the turret in places, and some of them have long arms anyways. You can get a mini excavator right down to the left of that dam, and
That
drive right up
road,
to.
that road looks like it would be pretty easy to get.
Oh, yeah,
fairly
very,
good-sized machine
very
down
easy
there.
to get a machine in there.
Lance, do you know the law on that off the top of your head?
I'm pretty sure.
On the shoreline,
As long as
shoreline?
the contractor's shoreline certified, that's all that matters.
Yeah, so you were telling me also that the town of Sangerville owns the left side and the right side is by Brendan.
It's my understanding that.
Jurgat, which I saw Brandon Sunday, he was up from Massachusetts. And I think he said he had it, because he was wondering if I was from the town, because he has a standard permit, or permit to try to build a walkway out. Because he asked me if I was working with you.
That's another issue.
Yeah, that's another issue, but no, what I was asking about is if we needed permission to do anything. He was gonna try to get me an email before today to give you consent to whatever we needed to do. It was.
You've spoken with
I've
him.
spoken with him Sunday.
You only own to the high water mark anyway, as a landowner.
Okay.
You only
Right.
own to the high water mark, so
Mhm.
Right.
as long as we're not above the high water mark, we're good on his
I
side.
think the biggest thing would be to set the machine, possibly set a machine on his property to do so. But I think.
No, you would do it all.
I would take it from the
I was gonna
outside,
say, I think
because
we
that
could
bank's
do all
like
that.
that inside. You could walk right out there. So, you know, basically, my first initial thing 3 years ago was just to let the town know that there's some issues going on there and, not to get away from us and, you know, and, I just wanted to bring it up again, just to state that that's, a lot worse than it was
Do you think,
3 years ago.
you've looked at it close now, do you think it's tender enough that the ice is gonna damage it? And do we get ice?
Only on maybe towards the ice out. I mean, the thing is, what would've been nice is if, you know, we weren't getting all this rain in the next, whatever, that, you know, I mean, if you could try to, if you ended up deciding to slate something as soon as you could, fine, but if it didn't pan out because if we got into more water than you wanna work with, now you get water going over the dam, you know, you're not gonna be in there. You don't wanna be in there with water going over the dam. You know, you wanna be in a situation like this. If it's got to wait, you know, do I think it can wait till spring? Probably, yes. You know, I think we need a time. Would I like to see it done by September of next year? Absolutely. You know, and I think as long as everybody's on board that, okay, we've got something in the works, we got a plan of attack. You could talk to, whoever, I mean, you guys have your own local people that you use for these type of, there's a lot, like I said, in the area here, there's a lot of certification of people that can work on this kind of thing, and, you know, I think Brian, whether you use him or not, but I think it could have been a lot more expensive. He was kind of doing it out of the kindness of, being a local person in the pond and whatnot.
I wonder, I kind of suspect, one of the things we've got to talk about, and I'm gonna cruise over pretty briefly here at the end of the meeting, is we've got to do some policy review, some significant policy review. And one of the ones we're gonna look at is where the threshold is to put stuff out to bid. So this might be, I suspect this would probably fall into a project that we would be putting out to bid to a certified contractor.
And you may need, you know, you may need an updated gate too. I mean, that old gate, they may say, that's no good, or it's falling apart, and here's what we can create new that adds, but you're gonna want something that, you know, obviously hopefully it'll last another 80 years, you know. I mean, we have, and some of the reason I was bringing it up is because one thing that you can get quick reaction on here is we had a few years when, in the last couple of years, we've had some issues with loon nesting, which is a huge thing. If the water is an inch or two below a loon's nest, immediate action gotta be taken care of.
Yeah.
You know, and that place has got 20, 25 loons, and that's the biggest thing that Tommy told me in Dover. He said, you wanna push something, you would get the Department of Conservation out there and go.
Can we sign up for some loan money?
Loon money, right, but, like I said before, they said the department had some money to help with this, and that might be something to revisit, say, hey, you know, you guys were here 3 years ago, looked at that. What are we, you know, where are we at on this? We need to move on this.
25 loans in there.
You had a question, Lance?
Well, 25 and 26,
friend-
because we want mating couples, right?
My friend Sue, she's the director of floodplain management in the state of Maine. She told me there's all kinds of grants for dams.
Okay.
Might be something to look into.
Is that something, is that a volunteer holding his hand up?
No.
Lance saying that he would hook us up with Sue to see what there is for
I'll
money?
email her, see if she knows the contacts, which direction to go with it.
And you can throw my email to her
Yeah,
if
I
you
will.
would, Lance, because I'll do some research on this, and I might harass my DEP contact too while we're.
Right, it's all who you know.
Don't shake them too bad.
No, I can shake her as hard as I want. I earned
Not
that
that we
right.
need to fluff off the cost or responsibility, but if there's money out there in budgets, we ought to be taking advantage of it.
I agree, you know,
And-
You
right.
know, if the dam can last that long. you know.
Right, this is what I'm trying to get the feel from you is,
Sure.
Is it a state of emergency or?
right, or can we get through this in
I'm gonna say no, but, you know, I don't know where the ice was gonna go, you know, I mean, I do.
I don't think anybody could give an unqualified statement that, yes, this dam's gonna absolutely.
I can see there's a problem
Right.
in the picture.
If it might be a Manhattan street.
Right. So,
It'd be the best time to change the boards.
That's
well, if we end up kind of like Pingree, when there's no dam there, now it's just, if it comes up enough, it's trickling down, you know, other than that, but, nope, that's all. You guys can choose whatever avenue, or look through multiple avenues. I think you can get some answers or get the
Well,
ball.
if I don't come out of here with about at least 10 things to research, I find
Yep.
myself lost during the week, so that gets me up to, I think, 7, so.
Over there.
Well, Eric, that was informing, and it's good that you brought it, because when it was brought before, there's not a single original member of
It was,
our town
no, it
government still
was
here.
someone's particular person screaming at me, and I'm saying, I'm not here to scream at anybody, you know, and I'm not here to threaten anybody. I made a comment of one of the owners, who was one of the past selectmen on the pond, that owned about half of the shoreline, did you wanna wake up in the morning and have nothing sitting there? And it wasn't, cause I always had a good rapport with her, and, someone else thought that I was picking on her or whatever, so anyhow, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm just here to say, I know you guys got, there's a
No,
lot going on, but.
I could see there was some legitimate issues there, I just, I didn't hang over the side of the dam like you did, I just
Well, no, I
walked
just-
along the walkway.
When you
looked
have
at-
no public works anymore, so to speak, you know, active, that's going down there once a month, checking, clearing the debris out of the way so that doesn't get punctured, because I think a lot of it is too, is sediment is built up and pushed. And probably 2 or 3 times a year, gates should be lifted, so that sediment will run right out.
It is evident that there's a significant amount of sediment
Correct.
there, I will certainly
Yeah.
grant you that point.
And that's putting the most of the pressure. And I would say that if you had more of a current there, I'd be concerned about the ice blowing through it. But where it's, I call it dead water, pretty much as it gets there, you know. I'm good with
And then
it.
you got the, you know, the dam, the old mill down there behind, up from the town office, that should hold it back if Mahanic, if that dam goes, it should just clean out 23 and,
Yeah.
you know, and the Veterans Park and, you know, just kind of expand.
Be like it on, when, up on Elm Street, when Gordon Davis's pond broke, remember? That took out 15.
They did.
They
Yeah.
did. Well, good, Eric, we appreciate you.
Yep, you guys can keep that stuff if you wanna have it in records to
Yep.
show anybody.
I'd love
I
to.
don't need it, but
Thank you.
thank you for your
Thank you.
time. All
Thank
right.
you. So before we leave that, do we feel like we ought to just see if there's any money out there for it?
I wrote myself a note to do some research on that.
Yep.
I don't think we're gonna do anything this year, it's
I don't
not
either.
realistic yet, you know, the
This
week
time of
before
year.
Thanksgiving that we're gonna. And I didn't realize we're supposed to get this much rain this weekend, I haven't looked at the weather. I
Me
guess.
either.
1.3 inches, something?
That's over 2-3 days with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's tomorrow evening.
Thursday night and
Saturday
Saturday
morning.
midday.
When are you gonna get it in the afternoon?
Why?
And Lance would be a good resource. His friend Sue, she's the head of the whole shoreline zone thing.
Yeah.
She's the person you need to talk to. Okay, let's move on. Thanksgiving holiday schedule. Says we will be closed Wednesday, November 27th to the 29th. Reopen for business on December 2nd.
That is consistent with, our personnel policy.
Good. It's a done deal.
Change that policy.
Can't be having taking days off.
Don't worry, Josh, I have no illusions that it won't bother you to call me during those 5 days.
Don't worry, I'm messaging you at 3:30 in the morning.
We heading out.
All right, Christmas holiday hours. The office will be closed Wednesday, December 25th, Thursday the 26th. For Christmas, we will reopen December 27th. The town's books close on December 31st. The office will close at noon, so we can prepare for the end of the books at the 2024 year. That's just informational. Okay, next, town manager's report, which I've read it in its
Well, it's 10
entirety.
after 8, so I'm gonna be brief here for you guys. Happy with the Veterans Day celebration and everyone that participated in that.
Excellent job.
Thank you. Town Hall Committee, I don't think there's anything further to be said on that, we've covered that pretty much in detail. Covered Diana and Cynthia on the Budget Committee. We beat the parking situation to death. As I said, Matt and I are tracking down policies from other fire departments, so we can put together a draft policy to bring back here for the fire department accident thing. Board of Appeals.
Yes.
I did research that in a fair degree of depth. Maine Revised Statute Title 30A, Statute 2691, Governing Board of Appeals. basically, when they wrote the, policy or ordinance, I believe it's ordinance, for Board of Appeals here in town, they took that, it is ordinance, they took that almost verbatim from the state law, which you can't blame them for that, that's probably the way to do it. Both our ordinance and state law says you, the municipal officers of the town, can appoint, are responsible for appointing a Board of Appeals. It doesn't have to be a town meeting vote of any. Our policy requires a 5-member Board of Appeals. There were 4 left in the town report, 2 expiring in '23 and 2 expiring in '24. I contacted all four of them, Mr. Pellerin, Virginia Wark, Eric Stumfeld, and Paul Davis. For whatever reason, Paul hasn't got back to me. Mr. Pellerin, I talked to his wife, and she said with his leukemia, she just did not see him being able to do this. Virginia Wark told me she just felt it was time for somebody that, where she was in life, it wasn't the best time, it wasn't a good time for her to continue that. She basically said she'd like to see somebody younger in that role than her. And Eric Stumfeld did say he was willing to do another term. So we have potentially 1 member of the Board of Appeals, and as I said, I put an appeal out to the town on Facebook and our town website yesterday to get people interested in committees and Board of Appeals, and I'm not really sure where we go from there. Eric told me in an email that he thought if we weren't able to pull a Board of Appeals together, and the appellate wanted to move that forward in a more timely manner, they could probably go directly to Superior Court.
Right, skip the appeals board altogether.
Right, that was his opinion, but we still really have an obligation to have appeals.
We do. And Eric is one of the right guys to have on that,
So,
being an attorney.
so there is where we are with that. And if anybody has any ideas where I should go from here to try to recruit Shanghai or otherwise a Board of Appeal, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Didn't Chris Rowell at one time speak at
Chris,
Steve?
he had
combine with some of these
he had
committees?
expressed interest in,
I have no problems reaching out to,
I remember him saying that, it might have been last meeting. If we run into problems with the committee, he would,
I think he's right.
just as another name.
Does
I
it
think-
say up to 5 or
it
has
says
to be 5?
5.
the appeals
The
board.
ordinance says 5,
And it's an ordinance, not a
and it
policy.
is an ordinance.
I think we need to, as a group, start appealing to people and get them involved. Maybe reach out to Chris. He expressed interest.
I'm happy enough to reach out to Chris.
I mean, we'd rather see this be a volunteer thing than going after people to do it. But it's a position that you're lucky if you're gonna meet once or twice a year, if that.
Well,
But when-
Virginia told me she was on it for like 6 or 9 years or something like that, and they never met. So,
But when somebody needs them, you gotta have them there. Okay, so we'll all dig and see if we can pull together some numbers for that.
I already talked about, meeting with, Numberall and the lot issue. Moving on to the road commissioner part of things, we completed the work on the West Road. Ditched lower section of that road, replaced 3 culverts that have become non-functional, those were in rough shape, did you see those when they come out?
Speaking of that, while we're at it,
Go ahead,
they have disappeared.
where were they?
Town garage set aside. All the long ones disappeared.
Say that again, the new ones?
No,
Oh.
the plastic ones that we pulled out of West Road that we had a discussion about maybe donating them to the snowmobile club or the
Right.
four-wheeler club, or, so I had them set them aside instead of putting them in the junk pile. They are gone,
They disappeared from our town garage.
our town garage. Yep. There was two 20-footers that were crushed pretty hard, but they were oval. And
Yeah.
as far as a snowmobile club or a ATV club, they would have loved to have them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And just shove it back in the back.
so that the stuff at the town garage is not, even if it's junk, is not free for the taking.
That's correct.
You need to put a couple game cameras up there?
What else is there? That's-
I mean, they're gone now.
Right,
Is there more to
true.
take there though?
I mean, I wonder really if we should have a camera system up there, because we do have a salt pile and sand pile and,
Well, the thing is nowadays, a camera is so inexpensive.
right,
They'll do video, they'll do,
right.
you know.
Eagle would probably do
So,
that for us too, actually.
Mhm.
We'll call Eagle and get a cost on what
Well, what they were gonna do in the town office was about $3,000, but I mean, that's putting 2 cameras, one outside and one inside.
And honestly, if we're gonna put our records in that building, it would be good to have one,
Yeah, that's-
at least on one corner, showing the whole front of the doorways, so we can.
Right.
Cause they make a bunch of them that are 360 that
Yeah.
you could put it on one corner and get
Right.
2 sides, the
They're
side,
panoramics,
right,
yeah. If we had a panoramic camera that caught both driveways, you know, both sides of the building to the road.
right,
Yeah, I think when our records are there,
Yeah, we definitely should. I hadn't thought of that.
That's a
That is
good catch.
That is a good idea. Anyway, West Road, we put about a 6-inch layer compacted gravel on it. The West Road's probably in the best shape it's been since the 1800s, would be my guess at this point. Which interestingly enough, when he was ditching and doing the culverts there, he hooked into some of the old corduroy
yeah,
from the 1800s.
I've hooked into some of that same corduroy on that road.
Yeah, but you gotta stop and think, I mean, that's pretty damn good wood that was put in there in the 1840s and is still solid.
take the air away from it.
Yeah, well,
It's
that's
amazing
true.
what happens.
I mean, it's just like wood underwater, it's the
Right.
same thing. We did a little work, we replaced some culverts on the Townhouse Road.
Can I
That
ask you
does-
a question about that? Is
Sure.
he gonna make it so it's not speed bumps? Is he gonna level it out, or should Chris go out there with the dozer?
It will be
Okay.
when we're done.
Cause he put more material I saw today, but it's still pretty good speed bumps down there.
Just to give us some time to compact.
Okay.
We've heard what kind of driver you are, so that.
No, I go real slow. And I warned Mason that he wouldn't wreck his motorcycle coming through the other night, but.
We're looking at replacing the culvert on the Bean Hill Road with 2 18-inch culverts. It's a low spot, right where there's an old stone foundation. Looks like it was some sort of mill there at one point. But it's like a low, I mean, we're talking like, again, 1800s.
At the bottom of it.
Yeah, the bottom of it, I mean, there's just a hole and, I'll hand Josh the credit on this one. He had a good idea. He said, if we have a storm like we had last December with 3 inches of rain in a few hours, that's gonna flood right there. So we elected to put 2 18-inch culverts in there so we can keep that road from flooding in a heavy rainstorm. I spent a bunch of time researching LRAP, Local Road Assistance Program, funding from Maine, and we did, and Michelle helped out with this, we found that we have $39,324 from a payment last year from 2023's local road assistant in our sweep account. Now, the other thing I found out about local road assistance program is that money is supposed to be used for capital improvements on roads and bridges. And they define a capital improvement as one that's expected to last 10 years. Now, I expect the work we did on the Burrows Road and the West Road to last 10 years, or at least in part. So my feeling is that we somehow note in the books, our records or whatever, that $39,000 was used on those two projects. That way we're legal in the spirit of the law and everything else, plus it saves us some money out of our budget. Also on the website, it said that the payments haven't been sent out for 2024 yet, but we should be able to expect approximately the same as we did last year.
Right, and this should be, I think I found that the end of November, 1st of December. So I think it should be coming in any time now.
The other thing I looked up is Article 17 in last year's town warrant. That has local road assistance as money that you are able to accept and spend with. That gives you authorization of the townspeople to do so. So we can spend that money directly without doing anything with the town meeting. Followed up again with Alcina Berenstuhl, Dynamic Consulting, our FEMA person. And she said that we actually only have $8,000 headed our way for FEMA money. I suspect what happened, once we got digging into this, that somewhere along the line, maybe somebody talked to Jeff and it just got accidentally misconstrued, misrepresented, miscommunicated that the $39,000 LRAP money was actually FEMA money. I suspect, because the numbers, it just makes sense with the numbers. So I think probably that we only put in for $8,000 worth of FEMA money. And at this point, we still have no idea when we're gonna get that, but it has technically been awarded to us.
Which I don't know how. We're gonna have to, from now on, just make sure that, because they worked for days. I mean, we probably put $20,000 worth of gravel down last year, I would imagine, in that. I haven't looked at the exact numbers, but there's no way it was $8,000, for that project, because of that rain, so. I don't know where the loss was. I'm sure it was between one town manager to the next, and then not having one.
We're keeping much better records these days on everything.
Yeah.
So, the last topic, or the last couple of topics I had on this, and again, I know it's getting late, we got policy issues. The policy we have on competitive bidding for road projects actually starts out by saying anything we can't do in-house. Now, I'm taking in-house to mean these days is what Josh and I can do with one of our pickups and a pair of shovels, so it ain't much.
Right.
We need to review that policy, because that policy is completely out of date. It's 2014 is the date on it. It also has any project over expected to be over $10,000 needs to go out to bid. Now, I'm fine with that, but I honestly think that if you stop and think about your own businesses and your own budgets, $10,000 was a whole heck of a lot different in 2014 than it is today.
Can I jump in here for a second?
Sure.
Because somewhere along the way, that was one of the policies that Jeff changed for that to go from 10,000 to 15,000.
Okay.
So there was a change, so when Jeff was here, for that policy to be 15,000.
When Jeff Libby was town manager. Was it wasn't something we did in the town meeting. It was just something that.
No, that would have been,
It was a board meeting.
that would be a policy, not.
It seems like I remember that.
Yeah, let me, we'll make a note and see if we can find those minutes on that.
So, anyway, the last italicized paragraph I threw at the bottom of this is that I recommend that as a work project, and I know it's gonna suck, but I will take the heavy lifting on it, is that we need to review I would say every ordinance first in this group between now and say February, and see what needs to go, see if there's stuff that needs to go to the townspeople at the annual town meeting. Keeping in mind, we can't overload them on an annual town meeting with 50 ordinances, we've got to, be reasonable about it. Then we need to go through the policies. Every policy, I really think we should be reviewing every policy every 3 years. I know in healthcare, and this again was just a nightmare to do, they did them annually, or the majority of their policies. I think that's overkill, but I think every 3 years would be reasonable. Because let's face it, policies in 1977 or 1999 or even 2014, maybe they're still good, maybe they need to be updated, but they should at least be looked at and dated that they were reviewed on such and such a date. That is my opinion. The decision is yours. And we don't necessarily need to make a decision on that tonight.
That's just a shining example that you just brought up. Things that we can't do in the house. That policy is useless.
Right.
And there's probably
50
10 of them
others
that
that are-
start right off and say, the Public Works Department
At least that, Josh.
employee will do this. Well, we don't have a Public Works Department.
There, I've got one orange binder that's a Public Works Director manual on my desk. I've got another orange binder of policies and ordinances. I've got a blue binder, which is actually a hell of a lot more accurate, behind the desk with policies and ordinances. There's 2 or 3 other books that have policies and ordinances in
2
them.
books, policies and ordinances.
This is my point.
Yeah, I'm following.
And this is something, and again, I know it's a workload that's mind-numbingly boring drudgery work, but I think we owe it to the town to get this stuff in line. If you're gonna hold me accountable to follow town policies, which you should, that is my job to do and your job to hold me to that. We should have policies that are up to date and consistent with how the town does business.
How would you do the procedure to do that? Would you think if we brought the books right to a work session and just as a group just went down through just to see which ones, or are you thinking of going through all of them yourself? Or?
I would probably go through all of them myself first, make some notes and highlights. But yes, bring the ordinances here for a work session sometime in, and I know we're getting into the holidays now, so everything's a challenge. But, sometime and I know in January we're heavy into budget. But if we could get a work session sometime in January or February where we could look at those ordinances and say, A, boy, this does or doesn't work the way it is. B, well, maybe it's not that big a deal, we can leave it the way it is. C, maybe we ought to make some adjustments and take this to the townspeople. Or C, subsection 1, maybe we ought to talk to our town attorney about this, the way this is written, and then go to the townspeople with it. There's an ordinance, a public decency ordinance in there that I suspect if you had some sort of issue, let's say with a group of people that viewed pronouns differently now than they did 25 years ago when that ordinance was written, that could cause a nightmare legal case for the town.
Right.
I may be wrong, but that's why I'm saying that some of this stuff should be reviewed by an attorney.
Right.
Have you read that ordinance?
Oh, yes.
And I'm guessing that, I'm not sure why that ordinance happened, other than I'm thinking that it might have had something to do with the Iron Horseman house on Mill Street.
We shouldn't be, we should be looking at any of these ordinances that are 10 years old. Especially what task forces have done and what's going on in present.
Yes,
There's just-
and that's my point. We should look at all the ordinances and all the policies. And
I agree.
And I think, you know, again, you know, the public is gonna be happy when we fix their roads. And we do work on their town hall, and we do stuff like the Veterans Day ceremony, and I put my posts on Facebook and the town website. The people love that. The biggest service we can do to the people, other than spending their money responsibly, or along with spending their money responsibly, is probably to get these policies and procedures in line.
I agree.
Or policies and ordinances, excuse me.
So I would think you'd start that with the ordinances first,
Absolutely.
so that any that need to be addressed can be done before the end of March.
And of course, some of the policies are dependent on some of the ordinances too.
Yeah, because you got 5 months
Yeah.
before town meeting to get through this, which we should be able to do that.
Yeah.
Prioritizing whatever.
And that's it. It's a lot of work, but we just put it into manageable chunks of work.
And some might just be word changes.
Yeah.
You know, they're some.
Like I said, that public decency one raised some red flags, because I think under the wrong circumstances, if we tried to apply that ordinance, we could get the town in A, significant legal trouble, but B, this is one of those things that, you know, national news outlets are saying, you know, in Sangerville, Maine today.
Right.
And we don't want that kind of, we want positive attention, not negative attention.
Yep.
And, you know, my feelings, you know, our personal feelings about all that stuff are really irrelevant. It's, we need to, if we're gonna maintain that, or if the people are gonna maintain that ordinance, it needs to be consistent with current legal practices. And that's just one example.
No, I agree with you. I think we need to look at them. All right, is that the conclusion of your report?
That is the conclusion of my report.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, select board concerns. Anybody have any concerns that they want to discuss? Okay, good? Good. I too am good for the moment, I guess. And no executive session tonight.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I second that.
Must be time for Josh to go.
We're adjourned.